A very Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year, Stats Raceland users. Happy to be with you for the last time. I think for the last time. I don't know if we're going to do I think it's going to be tough to do a seminar for opening day at Santa Anita, so I'm going to assume that we're done for the year after tonight. But happy to be with you, and hope you're ready and enjoying already Hanukkah and everything that comes over these next 10, 12 days. We are certainly looking forward to a nice Saturday and even a Sunday of racing with the stakes cards, 5 graded stakes at Gulfstream Park. Their season starting really in earnest after last week's Classico de Caribe and the Claiming Crown the week before. We've also, of course, have got the last pointed race toward the Derby for 2-year-olds on Sunday, the Springboard Mile, which continues to grow in prominence as Remington Park closes on Sunday, and we expect we'll get a Remington thought in from Ellis later on. As we get started, though, Ellis Starr with us. We'll say good evening to Ellis.
Hello, Steve. Hello, racing fans.
And also welcome in Craig Walker. And when we were together for Cigar Mile Saturday, the preview 3 weeks ago, I couldn't help but laud Craig Walker's tremendous insight going back to the Breeders' Cup webinar where he gave you the impossible exacta in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint. Unbelievable as Bar of Gold. And Mies Mesa, it was a horse that was inconceivable. Bar of Gold, much less so. But there they were, 1-2 in the Presque Isle Mile, and that was a big part of Craig Walker's approach. And as we say so often, Craig, it only takes one on Breeders' Cup weekend, and you had the one that answered a lot of questions. Well done.
Thanks. That was a very, very exciting stretch call. You know, and I saw Mies Mesa there, but you know, all of a sudden, Bar of Gold showed up. I didn't notice that till real late, so I wasn't worried about which way the photo was going to finish. So that was exciting.
Well, we've got more opportunities tonight to talk, also some new features as Stats Raceland continues to evolve and improve itself with your help. All of you that come on to whether it's using the Stats Raceland Twitter account or whether you come and utilize the message board and interact there, your suggestions, the terrific group that responds to your ideas and the experiences continues to improve Stats Raceland. Want to hit a couple of things right off the top before we get started, and the opportunity to give Stats Raceland as a gift. You got other friends that are players, you're enjoying it, buy them an annual subscription, and you can buy one for yourself, but then give one to a friend. Use the promo code GIFT, capital letters, GIFT, when you check out, and this will expire tomorrow, so one more day, and use the gift promo. Basically, it's a 50%. You know what? If you got a friend, you guys could even split the one subscription, and the other one comes with it. So it's basically a half price offer in that regard. And then, of course, our buy one, get 2 months free, and that would bring you right well into the winter season, into February and beyond. So the opportunities, utilize the webinar gift code, promo code when you check out, and that goes till the end of the year. And the time we're going to get together actually will be a Pegasus World Cup weekend seminar on the 25th. So lots to do. Let's get started. And the new features, in fact, talk about those right off the bat, Ellis. A great way to wade in.
Yeah, I just want to remind everybody that there are a lot of new features. The developers try and add them every week. And if you don't know what they are when you first start the program, there'll be a pop-up to show you, which you can disable. But if you've forgotten, you can always click on the About Us, and in the About Us, it will show the most recent features. Also on the forum, which is available here, there's an announcement section that has the most recent forums. But 3 of the most recent that I want to let everybody know about have to go to today to show you. One of the first things that's going on right now is the feature that allows you to get charts for the races on the same day as they become available intraday. And that's a very cool feature because it's another function where you don't have to go out of the program. So, for example, we'll go to Aqueduct today. The races are all done, we know, but when you go to PPs or research or True Odds, and I'll use True Odds as the example, and we'll go to the last race on the card, which wasn't that long ago. And if you go to any of these pages, you will see a link that's not there until the chart's ready. When you see that link that says chart and you click on it, it will bring up the chart for that race. It takes a few minutes to publish if you haven't seen it before. And unless there's a bug, there it is, starting to publish the data from today. Usually it's a little quicker than this, so might have to look into it. Let me, well, that's not what I expected. I've been trying it all day. It's been working just fine. But as you know, stuff happens sometimes. And let me go back and run the program again. But when you see that link to chart, you get a chart for the day. Let me go back to the first race today at Aqueduct and make sure it's working here, perhaps. If not, and as we always say to people, if you have any kinds of issues, send us a note at statsfeedback@equibase.com. And I am not getting it right now. The additional feature is the one where I'm going to go as we go into the races as well. Give us 1 second here. So relaunch the program. And I'm going to use the example, so we're going to go to the races anyway for Saturday. So we're going to go to the race at Gulfstream. I'll just start in the 5th, which is a Rampart, which we're going to get to in a minute anyway. And when you get to the PPs for any particular race, and you click on a running line to get to that chart for, let's say in this case, October 1st of 2017, and that chart will come up. And when it does, there will be a drop-down menu for every chart on that day. So again, you don't have to go looking around for it. Here it is at the top. So I clicked on that running line for October 1st, race 4, but you see, for example, this race, 7 furlongs on the dirt. You want to see if there are any 7 furlong races on the dirt or some other thing about the rest of the card. You can just switch around from one race to another, and every race on the day is available for whatever day in history you're looking at, as well as today's charts. It takes a while, but they're done on the fly. So if there's any issues, anything that has been corrected, it's going to come up on that. The other feature to point out is a new angle feature, and it's very cool. Again, as you mentioned, Steve, we listen to our customers, and someone asked us about this. They like measuring horses that win by a lot. So I'll just tell people it has to do with the margin of victory. And under Manage and Edit Angles, under Case, for last race and second race back, there's a new category called Margin of Victory. And so if you want to check how a horse does in its next race and add other criteria as well, based on its margin of victory, you go Case, last race, margin of victory, and you can put in any margin of victory you want. If you want to only measure horses that won by 10 lengths or more, you can do that. And you can tie that into other stuff as well. So those are the newest features in Racelands. Don't forget you can find them out anytime you want by clicking on About Us and clicking on the About Us link. And I'll kick it back to you, Steve.
Well, let's just press forward and let's go to Gulfstream. The second half of the card starts basically with race 5, and between the 5 Great Tree Stakes and then the other races that feather in between, it's really, really strong. And there's actually, you get to this point on the calendar, you would not expect to have to really make some hard decisions. If you like stakes action, this is obviously a terrific card, but there's also 4 stakes at Tampa and starts in race 2. Races 2 and 3, they've got a couple of the sire stakes. These are new sire stakes in Florida, and then the inaugural and the Sandpiper, and then a bunch of maiden races and allowances. Fairgrounds has got another terrific card as well. They got their Santa Super Saturday card. So, boy, they're really good racing pretty much everywhere you look. And it's been that way it seems, Ellis, no matter, what, where we are on the calendar, you think to yourself, well, I'll wait now for Santa Anita to open. And then you look at these kinds of cards, or you look at, we've had pick 5 carryovers. We had the pick 6 carryover yesterday at the Los Al. I mean, everywhere you look, there's interesting racing. And this Gulfstream card might as well be January or February.
Yeah, absolutely, Steve. It's a great card. They threw a maiden race in between the stakes and makes it even more fun. A couple maiden races, actually. But we'll start with the Rampart, which is a really interesting race, a mile on the dirt. Don't forget the post time's early, 2:05, so you don't want to miss it. Early first post is noon. But in this race, I'm just going to jump right in with my picks and then kick it off to Craig, and we'll share the screens here. I'm going to start, to me it boils down to 2 horses. And obviously Curlin's Approval, who I'll get back to it, I'll show you why I did all this, is the obvious contender. But I really like a price here, and I'm going to also say why I don't like the second and third choices. But I'm going to talk about Lyrica here. So Lyrica is a very interesting filly. She has run okay in her career. I mean, certainly her lifetime record, 6 wins, 4 seconds, 3 thirds, $275,000. But her best race ever, looking at her pattern of this lifetime PPs pulled up, you could see she's just gotten better with age, or something happened. I don't know what it was. The light bulb went on here in August when she got a career best 99 figure winning at Gulfstream at 6 furlongs. And then she went in a couple of stakes, 4th and 2nd, 3rd, and then this one here. And that was at Gulfstream Park West. I recognize it might have been the track. It was a state bred, but the speed rating tells us that she just ran lights out. It was her best race ever. It was a 106 figure. What's interesting here is she's a 3-year-old, and so she certainly has improving to do. And she's already raced against older, so I'm not worried about that. But you expect 3-year-olds to improve physically and mentally at the end of the 3-year-old year. I mean, that's why they do so well in some of the Breeders' Cup races. And she did that. She has 5 wins at Gulfstream, more than the rest of the field combined, except Curlin's Approval. And yet she's 20-1. Her 2 races at the mile are here, in which she ran second, she's beaten 4 lengths, but she was second. She was clear, was a 6-horse field. And the other one was here back in the slop in the Hut, and she won that in last December, basically this weekend last December. And so she's got the 1-turn mile. And additionally, Antonio Sano we know is a good trainer, and we'll talk later about Canavera. But Santana with Marco, and I forget his name, is Menezes, this is just solid, almost 100% profit, just randomly betting these guys, and then you've got a horse that's in form. So this is a bet for me for sure to win or win in place. I make a place bet if it's 10-1 or more, and we're going to use her. Obviously, Curlin's Approval, certainly this, and this allows me to show a feature that we added a while back, which we've already demonstrated, but you see that she's 7 for 10. So I didn't want to look at the races that weren't Gulfstream races. So at the end of the line here, there's this universal sign. And when you click on it, you can highlight or you can strike through. And I can turn it off and I can turn it on. So this is a way, without having to use the filters, if you want to, right on the PPs, this stays with the horse. Next time you come here, it'll be the same. And you can turn it off, as everybody can see, with one click. I'm lining out all the races that weren't at Gulfstream. So now I see winner by 4, winner by 4, 5th, winner by 6, winner by 2, second by 3/4. That was a 1-turn mile. So it just emphasizes how much she loves Gulfstream Park. Last year in this race, in the Rampart, she had the lead. She got beat 3/4. She was a length and a half clear of the next horse in genre with a 102, but she's running even better here, 104, 110, her last 2 wins. So she's the horse. So I'm going to say the play now. As I said, Lyrica for me is a win-win place bet. I'm going to play Lyrica and Curlin's Approval in a pretty strong exacta box, maybe a little more with Curlin's Approval on top because it's going to pay less. And I'm going to play a trifecta of Lyrica and Curlin's Approval in first and in third with everybody in second. That way, if they come in first, second, or first, third, I'm still getting rewarded for having used a 20-1 shot. And real quick, why I like this race is I'm going to talk about the 2 favorites very quickly, Nona Mela and Lewis Bay. Nonamela, Lewis Bay first. Lewis Bay been off for a long time, since November. Chad Brown's a great trainer, but I don't think I have this pulled up. But Chad Brown, I'll just say one of the stats. Chad Brown at off 180 days or more in a dirt route is 2 for 10. And that means that this horse would have to really run well, because even her best races weren't good enough. She's more mature now, of course. And the other was Nonamela, who I think was the 6th here. And Nonamela, that last race just troubles me. She's running so good, and then she throws in a complete clunker, and they give her 2 months off. She might be able to win, but again, the 104 doesn't really thrill me when I saw the 110 back to Harlan's approval that she's capable of running in terms of a figure. So those are my picks, Lyric and Harlan's approval, and I'll turn it over to Craig.
Did we lose Craig?
Yeah, oh, here I am.
There he is.
I'm changing. Sorry, here you go. All right, Craig, there you go.
All right. Sorry, just waiting for Ellis to pass it over to me. Okay, so I just want to start off with looking at the race projection. So this is in the True Odds module, part of the Race Lens. And for me, it's kind of an unusual race. You can see the comment that there's only one confirmed front runner in the field. Be cautious of backing a horse with a sustained run style. And so you can see that Alpine Sky is the only horse that it has an early presser style, which means it is sometimes on the lead. The other horses that have the P style are all pressers, so they're usually 2, 3, 4 lengths off the lead. And then the S horses are sustained horses that in general tend to be back of the pack. So besides the run styles, we look at how the race projection, how the algorithm determines the horses could possibly be strung out in the field. And so when I'm looking at this, I'm only going to look at the horses, the 6, 1, and 3, I kind of think will have an advantage over the rest of the field. And so those are kind of the horses that I tend to look at. So this race is a way to show you how Ellis and I look at this race differently. And for me, it's mainly influenced because of this True Odds, and because I have some positive angles that I've created previously for some of the horses here. So we'll look at number 6. So whenever there's at least one positive angle, then the mark is going to be in green here. I happen to have 2 positive angles here, so we never want a user to miss a positive angle. So that's why, as long as there's at least one positive angle, it's always going to be highlighted in green. The number of angles that are matched for a particular horse. If all of the angles were negative, then that's when you'll see red markings for the number of angles matched. And that's just the way that it seemed like the best way for users to experience those notifications to alert them the way that they wanted to be alerted. So you can see that the angles that are positive for me here is Todd Pletcher using Castellano in a graded stakes race. And if you want to see the details, you just click on it. And so this will show you that in the past year there was 30 starts with them together in this situation, 27%, 1%, and a plus 14% ROI, which is a terrific ROI for that type of statistic. Then the other angle that was positive here is one that has nothing to do with the trainer or the jockey. I will click on it just so we can see how I constructed it. And that's just Keeneland shippers coming to Gulfstream Park. So to create that type of angle, you can see I just have the filter of today's track being Gulfstream Park, and then with the case, I'd say the last race, the track was Keeneland. So we can see in the past year there's been 85 starters fitting this pattern with 21% win percent and a plus 29% ROI. So far in the last year, last 365 days is how the year always goes. It's rolling 365 days. It's been a highly positive angle. And I also like I said before, because the horse was projected on the lead, that's why I like the horse also. The other horse I like is Lewis Bay. It was another one that was going to be near the lead in the race projection. And the main reason I like this horse is just right now, Rat Ortiz Jr. I think is riding fantastic. I mentioned it on the Breeders' Cup. I mean, that was one of the reasons why I like Bar of Gold. He's just been riding, to me, just the way he looks on the horse, the way he's analyzing pace. He's just always dangerous right now. And if he's on a live horse, I mean, I almost it has to be automatic throwing for me right now, unless I really don't like the horse. Really, ever since he gave that ride on Diversify, when Ellis and Lafitte, Pink Eye the Third, were both high on that horse, I just have liked the way he's ridden there since early October. I just think he's been great. And so those are the two horses that I have as my contenders in that race.
Seems like Lewis Bay may have a big pace edge too here, guys. Yeah,
it's possible, and that's one. I mean, it seems like almost any style right now, a Rat Ortiz Jr. is riding, very well. You saw last weekend at Gulfstream in the Classico. He brought the horse from behind. Bar of Gold he brought from dead last, and the other horses he's been going to the lead, and he just extends the advantage. So he's just doing everything right to me right now. And then just when I get on a jockey like that, I just stick with him.
Now, following that maiden race that you mentioned, after we get started with the Rampart, we shorten up. Fillies and mares are going to go 3/4 in here. And Craig, keep it rolling.
So for me, the obvious favorite, Dearest, the 6-5 morning line, is an obvious choice. I wanted to show a couple of other types of angles that you can create, because we always tend to concentrate on the jockey and the trainer a lot of times on our angles, but like I showed before in the last race, that the shippers from certain tracks, you can sometimes find nice angles that way, especially on the short meets like Keeneland or Del Mar, and so or Saratoga. Different horses coming from different tracks all over the country. You can find certain tracks that are just, for whatever reason, the horses are legged up, or the tracks are similar, or just all sorts of reasons. For some reason, horses are winning from those tracks. So for this case, I didn't want to show a track. I wanted to show a sire. So this is with Midshipman. So this is a small number, a small sample size, but I still like to try to find these types of angles if I can. And so I like to try to find certain sires with their offspring at certain tracks. And usually it can be a specific distance. A lot of times it's going to be sprint or route, and it's going to be either turf or dirt, or it can also be even sometimes you'll find it with first-time starters from certain sires will win it just at certain tracks. And so that's the type of angle I try to create. So in this one, it's just the sire is Midshipman, the track is Gulfstream, just in dirt sprints. And so we see in the last year there's been 29 starts. The win percentage is high at 31%, and the ROI is positive at 6%. I mean, random betting is minus 25%. So anytime you have a positive ROI, that's a strong angle. And even when I'm getting angles that have minus 15, minus 12, minus 10, even those I consider as there might not be strong bets, but it's a positive sign, and so I still give those credit all the time as well. But this one is an obvious one. Also for dearest, you can see that the trainer does very well with dirt sprinters. And so we see here, it's even, I created an angle because I don't want to miss it, but also it'll come up here when you see distance surface, you can see that it says 365 days dirt sprints. So you can see that as 72 starts, there's 38% winners and a plus 14%. So this trainer is a strong play when he has horses in this type of situation. The next horse I like is number 2, Miss Hollywood. So for me right now, the other jockey that I'm not a big, it's funny, I'm not a big follower of jockeys, but then certain times a jockey will catch my eye in certain types of races, and I see them start winning, and I don't know, it's just like they're like, it seems like they're looking at the form the same way I do. I don't know what it is, but then I start getting on that jockey, and then when we match up again, I just tend to play those jockeys a lot. And right now, to me, John Velasquez is the other jockey besides the Rat Ortiz Jr. that I just like the way he's riding right now. And anytime kind of when he's on a horse that I see is topper, the second best in the race, he's just giving it a good ride every time right now for me. So I'm playing him that way. This horse is also a horse for course. So at Gulfstream Park, horse for course is the way that there's different ways to program it. The way that I programmed it here is, this one is just for Gulfstream Park, but you don't have to put Gulfstream Park in it. That's just to see how it's done at this track. If you just put in the other line that I put in, today's track and course win percent is greater than or equal to 50% is the way that I consider a horse for course. So that would be like if it's on the turf course at whatever track you're at, then as long as the win percentage is over 50, and as long as there's at least 3 starts. So that's what I have as the control for the minimum number of starts in this line right here. So that will show you the horse for courses, and a lot of people like that type of angle. So if you wanted to make it just for a track, you could have the win percent at the track greater than 50. Some people don't care what course it's on, so that's the way that you can construct that angle. And then the other horse I like in this race is number 8, Rich Mommy. And this is kind of a play for the trainer that I like. So you can see that he has a positive ROI with horses that are off 31 to 60 days. And so that's why I like that angle. And then there's an angle here that is one of the ones that comes with Race Lens that Ellis created. So it's under the Starr category, Ellis's last name. And it's for 3-year-olds that meet certain criteria against older horses in the graded stakes. The sample size is small. Currently, it's only at 9 starts, but it's one that earlier in the year was positive as well. So it's kind of stayed positive throughout the year, even though some of the other earlier stats that made it positive fell off. Other ones have come forward to take that place. So it's just a good angle because it's such a high price. And so those are the horses that I like in this race. I can pass it off to you, Ellis. 1 second.
Okie doke. I'm just going to add a couple of things about this race while Craig's giving me screen back. Certainly Dearest, horse for course. Do have a little bit of concern. I'll talk about Dearest real quick. I mean, she's certainly a horse for course, 4 for 7 at Gulfstream. I do have a little concern because the last race was a grade 2, and she was some tough horses. Curlin's Approval, of course, who is running in the Rampart. But she really didn't have any fight here at all in the last 1/8 of a mile. Now, on the other hand, got to go back and look last year she won the race, and she did the same thing. She got from a grade 2. She went in the prior race against 3-year-olds only, and then she faced older, which is back to what Craig said, 3-year-olds versus older. Especially this time of year, it doesn't happen much, but she wasn't a huge price that day, but it does show it's effective. And she ran good. So the grade 2 to grade 3 drop is the reason I'm still considering her. But really quick, the only horse I'm going to use with her in any multi-race bets is going to be the 7 Pretty Perfection, who is really interesting because she's turf, all weather, turf, all weather. Her last 2 races, one was meant for turf. That's the circle with the X, were on dirt. That was actually on the dirt. They're both classified allowance, which means it's right below stakes level. There's no stakes, but it's the highest purse race, probably the feature on those days. She won by 4.5, and then she gamely won by a neck. And those 102 and 104 figures stack up really well because when you look at Dearest best races, 100, 103, 109, but that if you take that out and look at the other ones. So if Dearest runs her best race and Pretty Perfection runs her best race, I think it's a 2-horse race. So that's where we're at with the Sugar Swirl.
The only thing I'll point out here is there is just a ton of horses that have very similar pressing styles, and you just get the sense that this thing has to have a hot pace. And I'm wondering who can sit comfortably, and it very well may be Miss Hollywood. And I thought that Craig, you look at her record, never off the board, as you point out, at the horse for course kind of an angle. I think you fold in the fact that she can sit, and they might run away from her a little bit. Johnny can save ground behind the speed. 6-1, very attractive, but there's going to be a lot of horses grappling for the lead up front in here. There's just too many horses with the same style. That's my
really
one thing. Yeah.
I mean, and I didn't talk about it much, and the projection, and I disagreed, which happens sometimes. The projections are right more than I am, but I did feel like you've got to also consider. I'm sure if you're talking about when you're talking about those horses like Dearest, the horses that are closest to the rail, the jockey is going to strategize to use their position. So, for example, Stella Performance, her one win came wire to wire. That was 5 on the turf. Last time at 7 on the grass. She basically was there the whole way. She was no more than inches off the pace. So I think she'll go. I think this other long shot, Girls Know Best. I mean, she's first at the first call in her last 5 races. I think she's going to go. And True Romance, that didn't work out last time when they rated her, but her last 3 wins, have been all wire to wire. So you've got 3, and then Dearest may have to go from the rail. So you're right. If somebody like Miss Hollywood can sit like she kind of did last time, particularly with Johnny V getting on, or one of the reasons I liked Pretty Perfection was because she showed that sitting 2.5 lengths off early, which is going to be in the minority for this race.
Now, going to turn our attention to the first of the grass stakes, the My Charmer, and the Grade 3 fillies and mares going a mile. And, of course, they start pretty close to the turn, so the horses on the outside they're going to have to move. I think they're on the inner portion of that turf course. The rail is 24 feet, so take that into consideration. And Ellis, continue on with it.
Okay, well, I'm going to start with the 7 Stormy Victoria, who is the 7-2 second choice in the race. Craig and I are going to be very close here, I think, in terms of our top 2 picks, just slightly reversed. But I like the improving pattern here on this 5-year-old mare. Usually, 4-year-olds improve a lot, but she came back from a layoff November to April, second in a 100-grander by a neck at Gulfstream, went up to Woodbine, third in the Nassau, to Belmont. 5 months later, she wins a classified allowance here, back to the all-weather horrible race. And then the autumn days last month at Aqueduct, a nice closing finish to Fire Key, who was very impressive that day. I'm sure you saw that race. And so I think that was a really good effort. And I think she's on the way back up to one of her best, like this 114. She's got the only time she ran at Gulfstream was a 100-grander, which this is. It was non-graded, but this is graded. I don't see much difference there. Joel Rosario rode her twice. He rode her here to the win at Belmont at 6 furlongs on the grass, timed it very well. And then Rosario also rode her in the Athenia at Belmont in the fall of 2016 when she ran second to Roca Rojo, who was very highly regarded at that time, has kind of fizzled out since then. A little far back here, 4 wide in the stretch, 7 wide. You know, as Steve mentioned, you're right. There could be an issue with position and having to go wide with the short run, but I think Joel could do it because he's done it before. The next is the favorite On Leave. I'm not going to talk of the horse up much. She's 7-5 winning line, so she's not a good win bet, but you can't leave her off the exotic tickets. I mean, 4 for 5 last year. Not as good this year, but she still run really well. That third last time out behind Kitten Roar, ahead behind Thundering Sky and the Goldakova. So she's dropping grade 2 to grade 3. She ran some great races back here with a 110, 110, 116 figures. Those are pretty good in this field, probably the best in the field, and, you know, beating that nose again last time out. She also has the, I put in this angle that one of our friends, Gary Edel, mentioned, and I programmed it in. It's the last, the horse with the best late pace in the race. And I'll show 2 things about it. First is, it's not bad. It's -4, which means it's, you know, 11 to 16, depending on where you're betting, better than the takeout. And it's got a very high success scores, which means in the money is a high percentage. It's 1,000 starts. So 42% of these horses finish first or second. I mean, you're nearing the 50% mark here for the exact at a -4 ROI. So at Gulfstream only, we can do it for various tracks. I decided to do it for Gulfstream only because that's what Gary recommended. It certainly was an angle to use. And you can also find that as well when you go to the projected, the projection, and you can sort, which I do a lot for turf races. You sort on late pace, and you can see On Leave has the best late pace in the race than April Gaze and this summer Victoria. But she'll be coming into also the top projected by far, almost even money, fair odds, adjusted true odds on Leave. So Stormy Victoria, On Leave, and then the other one I think is going to help with the exact of the trifecta, and maybe what could put the upset is the 8, Gianna's Dream. And Gianna's Dream has the best record in the field. I mean, she's 9 for 17 in her career, $400,000, 6 for 10 on the grass, 300 grand. She's never on the Gulfstream grass, but she's certainly good. She's a 4-year-old. She has run 3 of her last 4 races, have been really, really good with wins, and then the third here at Monmouth and the Violet. And she doesn't do a whole lot wrong. Mike Maker, and I'll talk about this again later, 2 things. First of all, she was entered in the opening day Claiming Crown Tiara because that was a starter kind of race. She had some claiming races back in her career. Well, Maker decided to skip the Claiming Crown Tiara and go in this ostensibly classier field in a grade 3. And I'm not going to knock him doing that. And the other thing is, Maker, and I think I have this as my default set of stats here, which is past 2 years turf routes off a 45-day plus layoff. Now, it's a 4% ROI on 236 starts, 20% wins, 50% in the money. So, you know, we know how good Maker is, but this means he really knows his horses, and to give him just a short layoff and to pop with them next time out, and an 8-1, I think she's worth a bet. So to be honest, I'm probably going to bet Stormy Victoria as well as Gianna's Dream, and I'm going to play the 3 here, Gianna's Dream, Stormy Victoria, and On Leave, and Exact and Trifecta, because I kind of think they stick out in this race. And I am going to turn it back over to my colleague Craig here. And you've got it, Craig.
Okay. So, yes, as Ellis said, kind of for me in this race, I like On Leave, then Stormy Victoria, and then I have a different horse for third place that I'll get to shortly. But for me as well, I liked the way that the adjusted true odds, like Ellis showed you guys, was even money. The other thing is that I have one of my angles. So for Shug McGahee, you can see that even though it's not a positive angle, when horses are 31 to 60 days away, it is a negative 10% the ROI. So that's it's a plus for me. It's positive. It's not positive as far as the ROI, but it is a plus angle. Also, I just have a generic angle that looks at turf sires who offspring wins 15% or more, and that's always a plus sign, and because it's an ROI of only -8. And so that's the other two things I like about On Leave. And then, of course, what we talked about before was Arad Ortiz Jr. being on the hot streak right now. So that's also what I like about it. Like Ellis said on Stormy Victoria, the 114 that the horse earned back here on April 29th was earned at Gulfstream Park, and she hasn't been back to Gulfstream since that race. So I think that's a positive sign. As Ellis said, she's on the, looks like she could be on the improve. And also when you look at the true odds, even though she doesn't normally have a lot of speed, it has her projected on the lead in this race. And when I go back and look at the PPs, she normally isn't on the lead when you just take a generic look, but these last three races have been sprints, and these are the pace figures. So the first one's always the early pace figure. So in a 6 furlong sprint, that's at the speed figure at the pace figure at 2 furlongs, and this is at 4 furlongs. You can because these are highlighted in yellow, that means that they're the highest ones for this horse. So for whatever reason, this horse showed some improved early speed, at least as far as the figures go. So I do think that means that the horse will be closer to the lead in this race, and so that I think is going to help the horse today as well. And then my third choice in this race is the number 9, Defiant Honor. And I have a couple of good angles with this horse. We talked about Keeneland shippers to Gulfstream Park, very positive ROI. And then the trainer, the Jimmy Toner, when he's 31 to 60 days away, we can look at his angle here. And you can see out of 29 starts, he has 24% winners and almost double your money, a 96% return on investment. Also, the other thing I always tell people when you use Race Lens, one thing that can help point to winners as well is when you see lots of the defaults always highlight things that are positive in green. And so when you see all these high win percentages and high return on investments, just the same reason like when we talked about John Velasquez, how he's hot right now, that's always a positive sign. I always take a look at horses like that. One other thing, you'll notice when you look at Ellis's screen, it'll be a blue circle, but the default I have mine at for my screen, when you see a race number in green like this, that means that it's a key race. So the 9th race from Keeneland on that day, also the 9th race from Belmont on September 16th. So I can click on the chart. And so for my default settings, that means at least 3 of the horses won their next start out of that race. So we can see here it's Lovely Bernadette, Sully's Dream, and Fizzy Friday. The difference between the green and the yellow is that the green means that the class rating that the horse won in the next race was 103 or higher, and the class ratings were lower. And then if we just look at this other race at Belmont, this race was even more winners. It was four different horses came out of this race and won the next start. So that just shows that this horse has been facing winning horses, has a trainer and a jockey with lots of positive aspects, and at 10-1, it's a horse that just for me is an automatic play to put in any exotics that I'm playing.
It's a nice group. and certainly Suge looks like a beach ball in here. Jimmy Toner's had a fabulous year. The horses have been running well, and he's shipped all over the country. It's always happy to see Jimmy Toner do well. The promotions, one more time. Let's run them by you. Make sure you're aware. Gift, GIFT. You buy a subscription for the year, annualized subscription, you get one free. So 50% off for you and a friend. Give it as a gift or each put up half. That's a great deal. And the buy 1 month, get 2 free, and that's good till the end of the year. The webinar code, WEBINAR, capital letters, for the buy 1, get 2 free. And on the subscription, it's only good till tomorrow. That deal is going to end tomorrow. So gift, GIFT, buy 1, get 1, tremendous offer. Basically carries you, obviously, right through this time next year. Let's press forward and get to the Harlan holiday. Some familiar hard hitters in here, including Paige McKenney with another chance for a graded stake win. And certainly Paige McKenney, an amazing job by Mary Epler bringing him back. I think people thought his career would be over, and yet he's 4 for 8 on the year. Pretty remarkable, and they're going to go a mile and a 16th, the Harlan holiday. And Ellis, some thoughts?
Yeah, I'll start this one off. Actually,
Craig.
Yeah, sure, no problem. I landed on a couple of horses here. So the first one I landed on is Fear of the Cowboy. He's morning line 7-2. This is a horse that, as we talked about before, Gulfstream is a horse for course. At Gulfstream, he's had out of 5 starts, 3 wins with a place in the show. That's a strong angle. Also, I like that the horse, the trainer, is a little-known trainer, but he has positive stats here. So this is with dirt routes, out of 25 starts, 28% win percentage with a plus 4% positive ROI, and also in stakes races, he has a strong record there. Also, I like that the horse ran a Equibase speed figure of 110 in the last race, and we'll always compare those numbers to the class rating, and that's the expected Equibase speed figure of the winner that we think is likely to run, and so that's always a good way when you're looking at the Equibase speed figures, which are always the bold number in this box. That's a number you want to compare that to. The number before it is the class rating. The class rating, of course, is what the number would have been up here if you were looking at this race on the day of that race. So that's my top pick, and then the next choice I like is 6-1 horse, Flatlined. And he has the angle we talked about before, Keeneland shippers shipping into Gulfstream Park, do well. He has a couple of other angles that to me are just plus signs, but they're not anything that's super strong to play as far as the ROI goes, but they're always good signs to see. So that's a 5 furlong bullet workout within the last 7 days. And also my other angle is it has the highest last race Equibase speed figure, and it's bigger than today's class rating. And then also I like to see the all the positive angles again here. This is always something that I go back to all the time. You see in stakes, he has plus 92% ROI. These are small numbers, off 2 to 6 months, down in class, turf to dirt, but you can see the figures are high. So those are things that they're not, the sample size is big enough to go all in on, but when there's lots of other aspects, then it's something that I like. And so I'm always looking for price horses that have positive statistics in this way. So those are the horses I like. The only question mark for me is that this was earned on the turf, and so that's why it's not like a super strong play, but I do like all the positive aspects that this horse has. I can pass it over to Ellis.
All right. Well, it's an interesting race, and of course, as folks that don't know, Canavera was scheduled to run, but he's passing this train into the Pegasus, which we'll be talking about on our next webinar. And it's very interesting. I have two horses I like here. First, Craig didn't mention, and I don't either like the favorite, so it makes it a playable race. Let me talk about when we make these kind of decisions about the favorite. Of course, wouldn't you know it, I'm on the wrong race. Destin, who opens at 3-2. Now, the purpose of the 5-2. Of course, most people listening or watching this later on replay will know that the purpose of the morning line is not to predict the winner; it's to assess what the public's going to do. And I get the 5-2 line on Destin. I mean, he lost the 2016 Belmont, by a nose here. He came back and he won an allowance race this summer at Saratoga, beating a good horse, Donegal Moon, Seeking the Soul, who just came back to win big. Ran horribly in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. He won the marathon on Breeders' Cup Friday, a mile and 3/4, which is totally irrelevant. And then the Clark, he was completely uncompetitive. And I just think he's an okay horse, but his best efforts here, the 103 you're going to see here, because the marathon number doesn't count for me. The 103 at a mile and 8 is about the best he can do. When we talk about other horses, just keep that in mind, because that's why I think it's a great race, because I think he's very vulnerable here. My top pick is going to be always, the contrarian that I am, going to start with the bigger price, is going to be the 4 Conquest Big E. And he opens at 15-1, as everybody can see. I haven't been following Gulfstream much. Jose Batista, a jockey, that is very good jockey overall. Like just a little cold the last month, but you're getting a big price. But this is a pretty decent trainer, and Donna Hertack Green. Donna Green's been around for quite a while. Just an interesting horse in that earlier this year, moved from Cassie to Lynch, and these two races, June 7th, July 23rd, were just off the charts. I mean, at Gulfstream, this is the slop, this is on fast, this is a little 50,000 stakes race, Gilbert Chamafi Road, but just blasted off and won big. Now, wire-to-wire wins can't have inflated figures. It's just a matter of horses getting brave. And then back in the Iceland, the Monmouth finished 4th, beaten 7 after leading early, went way too fast. Look at those early pace figures, 106, 110. And, of course, this tells you the leader's figure and the horse's figure, because he was the leader. But back here when he won, he got to dawdle a little bit on the pace, and he really did get brave. He's very capable, I think, of doing this because, and I'm not going to go to the pace projection, I'm looking at the horses as well. The only horse inside of him that's any kind of speed is Richard the Great. And Paco might send him, and then my strategy's off. Richard the Great, he won at Gulfstream here. His best effort, one of his best, came from just off the pace. And then the Trinidad at 7, wire to wire. But the tendency more often for him is to come from 2nd or 3rd early. And I think that if Batista goes, that Conquest Big E can run. And if he runs back to one of these two with the 112 and 114, don't forget we looked at Destin with the 103 figure. And I'm looking at figure 2nd, by the way, not 1st. But if the horse runs its best race, it runs its best race. And I think the 15-1 is crazy there's a huge if Conquest Big E runs that race. Now, these all races here are 1 mile, they're all 1 turn. And I was looking to see if the horse ever ran 2 turns, so I go back here to Aqueduct, 5th, 4th. But I look back at his second career start was Akeem, a mile and 16, which is 2 turns, and he won nicely. So he does have a 2-turn win early in his career. This was the Holy Bull. This was the Gotham. So that was just a class issue why he ran lousy. You got a horse that's good form isn't far off. These both came off short layoffs. He's coming off a short layoff. So I'm making a Conquest Big E my top pick. My other win contender in the race is Mr. Jordan. I'm going to key both of them in exactas. Mr. Jordan just won by 11. Don't know what got into him. He was really good last fall at Parks. He had 9-length win here in allowance. He won the Millions Classic Preview at Gulfstream West, 2 turns, and then he got off form a little win here at Parks, but got back into form, and this is tremendous. It's also the first time that Edgar Zayas had ridden him, so it could have been just the way Zayas did. Now, he went wire to wire, but he doesn't need the lead. You can see these wins here where he came from second and third, so if, in fact, Conquest Biggie does get the lead, I think Mr. Jordan sits off the pace. Richard the Great, you've got to use for exactas and trifectas, I have to mention, because he did run second line Mr. Jordan, so he could be second or third. Destin I'll use for second and third, but I'm trying to beat him, to be honest. Paige McKinney, who Steve mentioned, who's got a heart of gold. His last race may have been evidence that he just needs to break again. That was just, he didn't show a thing. He's bounced back a little bit from bad races here, but I don't know at this time of year whether he needs some more time off or not. He's 7 now. So I'll use him in second and third. I don't think he can win. And Fear the Cowboy, who Craig mentioned as well, I'm going to use him in second and third. Again, these last two efforts just don't show me any kind of stuff here. So I got 2 win contenders, Conquest Biggie and Mr. Jordan. And we'll move on from there, Steve.
Absolutely. And right into the tropical turf and go on with it, Alex.
All right. Well, this is the 10th on the card. Really good race. Get back up the top here. I never do this easily. And a really interesting race and some price horses for me. I'm going to start with the 5-year Galton. And I talked earlier about Maker, and we're going to go back and typical of Maker to be such a good horseman to spot this kind of thing. He claimed Galton for 62.5 back in June. Now, before that, you see Tom Amos. Tom Amos wasn't Galton's original trainer, but Galton won 8 races after Tom Amos claimed him. And then Maker said, well, I still want a shot at this horse, even though he's 6. And he took him for 62.5, and first time out of the box, second in the stakes, and then 4th, and then second after leading late at Gulfstream in a mile, and then at Gulfstream West, he ran really well again. And you can see he kind of goes in and out in terms of his figures, but he's got some really good races. The fact that he's just such a tough competitor here, 15 for 28 first or second with 380,000 on the turf, and he's 10-1. That's what's got me kind of excited. Again, back to that statistic of Maker off these short layoffs. He gave the horse a short layoff since that last race, which was on October 19th. And back here, Maker off the layoff in turf routes. Last 2 years, 48 for 236, 20%, 50% in the money. A flat bet profits betting these with a median win percentage of 3-1. The Maker gets overbet. So when you're getting a median win percentage, everything above and below is around that. And it's $8 as the median. I think that's worth playing at all. And he's 10-1. All included. This is just a strategy I've used for years. And Steve, if you want to jump in and comment, I have a habit of doing this. When a horse has a really bad race that's led to a layoff, I'm going to use this thing here. I ignore the race. I pretend it doesn't exist. Something went wrong. They had to give the horse time off. I ignore the race. I pretend that everything before the race that led to the layoff is valid, and that's invalid because it led to the layoff. And it's really worked pretty well for me. Jude Feld and I have discussed this a lot when we used to do shows years ago, and it helps a lot. So you can see what happened here. Miami Mile Scratch ran badly. Before that, 3 good races in a row, and they were at Gulfstream. Gulfstream, 3rd in the Gulfstream Park Handicap, ahead behind Beach Patrol, and then he beats Delta Prince and wins the Appleton, which is a mile just like this is. So if he gets back to this race off the layoff, he's got a shot. Now, Fletcher is actually very good off the layoff. I don't know if I have this one queued up, but yeah, here it is right here. 6 for 28, 21% wins, 2 years in turf routes, 180 days, 49% profit. And if you can get Fletcher, and every $2 you bet, you get $3 back, I think you should take it. So in that case, all included certainly is worth it. So I struck out the last race. I looked at Fletcher off the layoff, which is great. I looked at the races representative, all included fits here. The last is another double-digit horse, Western Reserve, and again, here's that angle, best last race, best late pace, and he fits that. He's 12-1 for Kent Sweezy, another guy he claimed, like Maker. Sweezy claimed this horse back here, claimed him off Brad Cox, June 4th, won a stake for $100,000. He got his money back right away in the stake race at Indiana Grand. Ran 5th in the Tourist Mile at Kentucky Downs in a really tough field. Flatlined, who we talked about earlier, Shining Copper, who came back to win. And then he ran the Autumn and wasn't disgraced at all, Woodbine on the all-weather. He's back on the grass. The only time he ran at Gulfstream on the grass was back here, 2 races. He's seventh and a second beating the neck in March of 16. And he's 12-1. So you've got a horse that has the best late pace in the field, who has good turf form. Also in a grade 3 here, the Colonel Bradley at Fairgrounds, he got beat a neck on the wire. So I think his horse is coming up to a big race. So my picture of the 5 Galton, the 4 all-included, and the 6 Western Reserve. And if you're playing exotics, you have to consider real quick the 2 horses from the Asfield Barn, Tower of Texas, who comes off and wins the Labib. His stablemate is Shakamat, who got beat a half a length in that same race. You got to use those in exotics as well. And we didn't talk about the favorite, or Craig's going to, but real quick, I don't know what to do with him. I'm not going to toss him out. But again, at the end of the year, when I see this kind of form, a non-graded race, uncompetitive, 6 wide, maybe the trip cost him, I don't know. But I'm going to try and beat him. I'll use black type and exactas. Otherwise, my win bets are on Galton and Western Reserve. And that's how I'm playing the race. And I'm going to hand it back to Craig. You got it, Craig?
Yeah, I got it. So the horse that I like is the number 4 all included. Ellis talked about a lot of his positive signs. I just want to show you the angles I have. So as we said, when he's off more than 180 days, he has a positive 40% ROI. When Pletcher uses Castellano in his graded stakes, they have a plus 14% ROI. And then I also have the positive angle of Castellano riding in graded turf route stakes, which is plus 16%. So, like Ellis said, Pletcher is one of those trainers that has high winner percentages, and people overbet him much of the time. So whenever you can find something even slightly positive, and these are strongly positive, you got to use those types of horses because it's one of the few times that they have positive ROI. The other horse that I like is the one Ellis mentioned, is black type. That Ellis said, is one he's trying to beat. For me, I do like that the horse had the 113 Equibase speed figure 2 races back when he ran big pace figures. When I look at the true odds screen for this horse, I mean, it has him as being the controlling speed of the race, even though normally he's not a speed horse. And it's kind of like the race that we had mentioned, we had seen earlier, when some of these horses show big pace figures in their most recent race or 2 races back, a lot of times they can show speed unexpectedly. I think this horse is going to have a comfortable trip, even if it isn't totally on the lead. And then the third horse that I like is Camelot Kitten. And this one here, this angle is one that's almost break even, and this is Belmont Park shippers to Gulfstream Park. So they tend to be almost break even, just a negative 1% ROI. On this horse, it hasn't ran since October 9th. When I look at the workouts recently, it just looks like the horse to me is getting better. Like I like to see these last couple workouts that were, even though this was only only 8 workouts on the day, it was the top workout. Some of the other workouts just looks like he's doing better than he was on these slow workouts that he was having back at Saratoga. They were always so slow and nowhere near competitive all of the time. And then also the other aspect I like is, again, that Irad Ortiz Jr. is on the horse. So for this one, I don't like it as much because he's been riding the horse all the time. Like for me, if he hadn't ridden him the last few times and it was being a switch to a hot jockey that I'm following, then I would give it more emphasis. but this is more like a horse that in the exotics I wouldn't want to beat me, because I would be kind of kicking myself if somehow I missed the trifecta or the end of a pick 3 or a pick 4 double or something because I didn't put in a type of horse that might be improving that I missed. So that's how I see this race.
Well, a terrific card, and the action's starting to heat up seriously. The Open Company and the Graded Stakes, now with these first 2 weekends in the books at Gulfstream. So we'll continue to look forward, and when we're together again, it'll be for Pegasus. But, of course, in the interim, there'll be the Holy Bull in January as well, as the 3-year-olds start to work their way to the Florida Derby. Speaking of 3-year-olds, well, the last big 2-year-old race on anybody's agenda is going to be closing day at Remington Park. That's Sunday in Oklahoma City. The Springboard Mile, well on its way to becoming a Grade 3. The 10 points toward Derby, a big part of the storyline for the big 12-horse field that came together. 2 or 3 invaders and the rest locals. And Ellis, I know you made it to the America's Best Racing focus. I saw your piece. Talk about the Springboard Mile before we adjourn.
Well, it's our Equibase race of the week, which America's Best Racing picks up, so that's where you saw that. And it's certainly a really interesting race. The main horses in the race, of course, Gray Vitos is going to be the big name because he won the Bob Hope, and everybody's looking at him because he posted a 9-1 upset, breaking his maiden in the race. He's certainly a horse that everybody has to deal with. I like him as well, but he's got that 12 post at the mile, and certainly we can take a look at it. If you want the written analysis, they can get it. Of course, everybody can get it at equibase.com. If you sign up for our weekly Inside Tracks, you'll get that as well, and also America's Best Racing. The horse I'm kind of interested in that race, Steve, is the 10 Believe in Royalty for Larry Jones. Just a little better. He's got the 10 post, but a very improving horse without getting into the race. I guess I can flip over to it real quick just to talk about it. 1 second. Believe in Royalty. That's race 11 at Remington. Believe in Royalty has 3 improving races with Equibase speed figures as I switch out here to Sunday. And his most recent figure was a 92. Now, Gravitos was off the page with his 110 Equibase speed figure, which I'll show everybody in 1 second here. I went and clicked on one race too soon. Nope. I guess I got the right one. Yes. Okay. So Gravitos, real quick, the favorite. And the morning line still haven't come out yet. But the 110 figure when he won the Bob Hope, certainly good, but that 12 post around that 2 turns. So Believe in Royalty, a little bit inside of him. Larry Jones, improving pattern of figures here. Jones with these kinds of horses, very good. This is just dirt routes the last 2 years. From dirt to dirt, there was one stat, and I can't recall off the top of my head, that Jones is really good with these kinds of horses. But I like the pattern. I like the fact the horse doesn't need the lead because in his debut he came from off the pace. That was a 2-turn race. The other 2 were 1-turn races. So Believe in Royalty, I'm going to use him. I'm going to use the favorite. I'm going to use one of the Asmusens and Combatant here who improved nicely, and he's a scat daddy, so I have no doubt about him getting the mile at 16th. He did debut on the turf going 2 turns, and then these 2, he gets the main man in Santana, and I'm going to use the 5. 4 horses here for me. I'm going to, in a big race, I'm going to go 4 deep. Flip the Coin Jan. This was interesting because this Flip the Coin Jan was claimed by Doug O'Neill out of a maiden claim of $50,000 when Keith DeSormo, the trainer, dropped him in, and boy, he sure got good for O'Neill. Don't know who he beat because it was a maiden claimer, but 89 figure, and he's really on a nice pattern here, and he was ridden out in hand. I don't have time to watch the video, but within race lines, of course, everybody can watch this video. So those are the 4 I'm looking at, and again, for written analysis, you go to Equibase or America's Best Racing for the good 2-year-old race, Springboard Mile.
Well, and you talked about Believe in Royalty, and this is some royally bred product. This is Brary Jones, a horse sold for $900,000 to Baker and Mack, who are most notably clients typically of D. Wayne Lucas. But Brary Jones came back in with them on this Sun By Capit of Believe You Can Boo Boo Clark's Kentucky Oaks winner. And certainly, if Believe in Royalty can rate, and I don't see why he can't. He rated in his debut, and I think that he's maybe a much more tractable horse than he looks, because there is a lot of speed in here. And my guess, Robbie Alvarado, based on the way Alvarado rides, you would think that he's going to wrangle him back a little bit early. And I think he'll try to find a cozy spot, maybe, 3 wide into that first turn, and then, set up shop and pick off horses as they go to the far turn. I think Believe in Royalty could really step out. This is a horse that's bred to be very good as the distances, continue. Very excited. And when you talk Gray Vitos, this is, of course, an emotional situation involving Adam Kitchingman, who was very fortunate to get his horses out of San Luis Rey. He and his staff had his horses loaded and out as early as any horses that vacated, the perilous situation. Gray Vitos got up to Santa Anita, managed to get his work in, and of course he was originally supposed to run in the Los Al Futurity, and Kitchingman made the decision to point for this spot. So there's certainly some emotional interest, I would say, in Gray Vitos' success that could lift the spirits of everybody that was involved at San Luis Rey. Want to thank everybody that was involved here, Ellis, of course, and Craig Walker and the whole team at Stats Raceland. Be sure to utilize all the help that's available for you at the desk at the forum. Follow Stats Raceland on Twitter for all of the terrific angles that are offered up. One more time, the gift concept, GIFT, as your promo code. Buy a subscription for the year, get one completely free, and the buy one, get 2 free month when it comes to the webinar, good through the end of the year. Want to wish everybody just the merriest of Christmases, continue to enjoy Hanukkah, a happy, healthy New Year, and we will talk to you in 2018 leading up to Pegasus at Gulfstream. Thanks, everybody.